As a startup, you should avoid microservice architecture. I'll tell you why, but first of all, let me explain the the difference between monolith and microservice architecture and why you should avoid microservice if you're launching your startup today. All right. Now, monolith architecture is basically when you build everything inside one application. All right. So inside this application, let's say an accounting system. You have just one app. Let's say you're building it with PHP Laravel. One Laravel application. It does the whole accounting. It connects to the database, fetches the information, processes it, and shows you. Right. This is monolith. Okay. And then users can use it. You may be using your Blade or even using React, and the React is coupled inside the same application. Okay. So if I go to your GitHub repo, I'm gonna see just one repo. All right, for the application. Now, even if you have APIs within that monolith, even if you have APIs, it is still monolith as long as it's still within the same application. But when it comes to microservice, all right, as you can see on the screen here, now the microservice itself, different sections of the application will be on different softwares, right? Applications, so that you can even host them on different servers, and they can connect to different databases. And each of them expose API endpoints. Okay, so different servers, different ports expose API endpoints. So instead of building one large application for accounting, you are building tiny little applications that does different things. One handles the authentication, one handles the checking user records, one handles saving XYZ, one handles to calculating, you know. So when you break it down into microservices, now you can scale them independently. So um, let's say there is a whole lot of let's say you built a social media app, right? And then people are protesting in one region. In the protest, a lot of people will go live. A lot of people will start videoing, recording what is happening. A lot of people will be posting video, and a lot of people from that region will be chatting. You see that a section of your app is now getting a lot of requests, which is the section that handles videos, all right? A whole lot of requests. And also another section is getting a lot of requests. For instance, the section that handles commenting, all right? Now, if you build a monolith architecture, the whole platform can go down if your server can handle that. And when you want to scale, now you have to scale the whole platform. But if it's microservice, you can just scale the user section. You can just scale the video section. You can scale only the commenting microservice. You know, the different microservices, you can scale them independently. Do you understand? So it's always much better and cleaner. When you're looking at the code base, it's cleaner, right? But the reason a startup should avoid it is because it has some cons. There are some bad things about it. For instance, it takes longer for you to decouple the system, build the microservices separately. It takes much longer. Do you understand? And as a startup, one of the key things you want to do is to get to market on time. If you come up with a startup idea and you are funded or you're bootstrapping, right, using your own personal funds with your colleague, you don't have unlimited time. You have to get to market within the time that your fund can handle it, right? If you're hiring developers, meanwhile, as a startup, right, most startups, not all, you should be in the market within 3 months. 3 months of conception and starting the project, you should be in market within 3 months. You should have your prototype ready, hosted, running, and you're accepting users in 3 months. Otherwise, you keep paying developer salaries and other running expenses, such as um, office cost, and so on, server cost and everything, and you're not sure that the idea will work. That is the problem with most startups. The idea looks fancy on paper, looks fancy in software, but it has not hit the market, you know, until it gets to the market before you can be sure. And anybody that has ever launched a project will tell you that the moment the first user started using it, they came up with reports. This is not working, that is not working, I can't find this, I can't find that, how do I do this? Now, once you go live, which means once you go live, should be on standby to be able to fix a lot of bugs. In a microservice architecture, this is difficult because here now, right? Let's say we want to fix a bug that returns all users instead of some users, right? instead of users that have above $50,000, something like that. You have to go to the microservice that handles users and then make that edit. Okay, fix that code. Remember that the front end is consuming it via API. Then you come to the front end and then you do the update on the front end again. Redesign the this is double work. Okay, then you go through testing. Microservices are harder to test because there are different moving parts you have to test. It just takes longer to run the test on the different moving parts. So, but if it is monolith, you just go to one place, make the change, and boom, and then you push to live. Your test is running, everything you push to live. So, as a startup, if now it doesn't look like much, like the example I gave, but we have seen that it's just double work, which means as a startup, if your platform is going to take you 1 month to build with a monolith, it's going to take you at least 2 months to build with a microservice. So essentially speaking, microservices are for huge platforms. Do you understand? Platforms that are having scaling issues. Do you understand? Every platform that is successful will eventually get to being forced to implement some microservice service of some sort, But then when you are still starting, you don't have that problem. Stop trying to solve a problem you don't have. It's a business mistake. And it's a big business mistake that most people don't make. Now, if you know how startups are formed, the idea guy, most of the time, not always, is usually not a tech guy. The guy that brings the money is not a tech guy. So he sources for the money, brings the money, then he hires some tech guys. Now, this is how most tech guys have been, trained to build apps. Now, this microservice system requires multiple developers. One developer can't just easily do that because one guy is working on the back end of one of the services and the other guy is working on the front end. And then if you're having multiple microservices, multiple guys can be working on them, but then a lot of communication has to happen. This is slowing you down. You understand? This is the equivalent of using a Lamborghini to run in the village. You buy an expensive Lamborghini in the village. Unfortunately, the roads are not that good. Okay? There could be potholes on the road, and then the road is not straight. You can't use the speed, and it can run 450,000 horsepower. That horsepower is useless in the village because the roads are not straight. So somebody using a Toyota Corolla would do better than you because it's easy to just pick off the market and just drive. You can't even drive faster than the person because of the nature. So that's the thing with microservices. So microservices take much longer to implement, multiple developers, and then a lot of communication, a lot of stand-ups, it's crazy. So now there's a question on your mind, I know, which is what of APIs? What if we want to build a platform that is going to use a mobile app later? What do we do? There's a hack for it. The mistake most people make is build a monolith architecture, right? And then they go and build an API architecture that is also monolith. So this one just issues only API and it's still in the same one app. All right. To make it a microservice, you just extract the functions, not functions now, but the features into their own separate apps. Now, this is a mistake. If you are trying to launch fast, in that monolith architecture, in your functions, in your methods, or in your controller, if I would put it that way, right? The actions in your controller, the method, the functions in your controller, you write it with API in mind. So when you write the function, when you're at the end of the function, when you're about to return a response, you write an if statement checking what requested for it. So if the request is coming from an API or the request is asking for JSON, then you return JSON. If the request is asking for JSON, you know that it's an API call. If not, you just output the request to a view file. If you are using a framework like Python or Laravel or Django, CherryPy, Cake PHP, Ye framework, you understand what I mean, right? At the end of the function, instead of you returning to a view file, you put that return in an if statement to check whether the request is asking for JSON. If the request is asking for JSON, you output JSON. That is, you return data. But if not, you return HTML. So that HTML will now be displayed in your Blade template or in any front end template you are using. So it's one function, now it's solving two problems. So which means your API can use the same function. That is an API already, okay? But your mobile app or your third-party clients can use the same function. You can even write a middleware that checks this ahead of time. Do you understand? Now you can now have a separate route file for your API, separate route file for your web, if you want, right? So it massively reduces the work you have to do and shortens your time to market. So instead of something taking you 12 months, 15 months, it takes you 4 months and you're up 3 months. You're out in the market, your prototype is ready, people are using it. Now you backtrack and start looking at things you can improve. Do you understand? As your user base is increasing and you notice some challenges, then you can backtrack, you can decouple, you can gradually decouple into Monolith. Since you already have the APIs, gradually decouple into microservice architecture if you want, or decouple more into API. You can even scrape your front end and make sure that your front end is now a React that is hosted on its own, which is in a way kind of microservice now, right? Now the React makes an API call to the same set of functions. Do you understand? So this is a smart way to get to market, which many developers don't know and frankly don't care. If I was a developer and I was employed to work with a platform, I wouldn't tell them this, because what? If you tell them, you'll get to market too fast and then nobody's going to pay you salary because they don't need you after that. Do you understand? So most developers will take the longer route, set up the cache, Redis cache, set up this, set up that, and then use a fancy that DB engine that will be changed again along the line, connect to Firebase, and then you start building the microservices differently. And then in your server, your whole server is all over the place. You're hosting on different server, different ports, and then there's API calls all over the place. Every single request for a feature change would take weeks, instead of just a few hours, because this one will have to change this, and then there's a bug here, you have to debug again, and then this other place breaks, you come down. You don't want to, as a developer, this is beneficial for the developer, but not for the founder. And if you're building a personal project, you don't want to use a microservice because you're not sure of how far the thing will go. So this is my argument against it. As a software engineer, let me know what you think in the comments. Of course, I know many engineers will disagree. I want to see your disagreements. Don't just say no because I'll delete the comment. Give a strong reason why you think what I said is wrong so that everybody else will learn. Or give a great reason, right? All in all, what is very important is a very elegant, clean code. Most of the major platforms we have today started as monolith. Almost all of them started as monolith. And then along the line, they started decoupling, including Facebook, including, I think, Slack, including things like Canva. I think they were all monolith. They started decoupling, decouple until they have this elegant architecture that handles billions of users they have now. But you're not starting with billions, so start with what works for you. Thank you very much. Make sure you follow me, like, subscribe, and share, and drop a comment. If you don't do these 4 or 5 things, YouTube is not going to show you my next video.